Hello everyone, my name is SiC and welcome to a quick update video for Squad. I figured I would do update videos for Squad as well as Ground Branch because I like to cover all the tactical shooters that I can find. And since they're both still work in progress, I figured I could follow along with the production of Squad as well. So today saw the release of Alpha 8.9 and that's really cool because they added a ton of new things. And November, because every month they do an update on what happened in this past month, and they talked about some of the new stuff that they were going to add for Alpha 9. But yeah, this update kind of came as a surprise to me because I figured out, I figured we would see Alpha 9, but instead we get Alpha 8.9. And it doesn't add all of the things that they were talking about in the previous update. So they were doing, they were showing off like a new first-person animation set, some things going on there, like a faulting system as well. And those things we might still have to wait a little bit longer for. But in the meantime, we do get to play around with some new toys. So let's have a look at what they are, though. Of course, this picture you can see right here already gives away one of those surprises. But first up, we have Localization. So the game is now available in a ton of new languages, including Russian, traditional and simplified Chinese, Italian, Polish, Turkish, German and French. And that's actually pretty good because like I've seen a Turkish server in the game and there's a French and a German server as well that I've seen. I'm sure they appreciate having the game translated into their local language, so that's pretty cool. Wonder if there's Dutch as well. Maybe there is, but I'm probably not going to use it because, well, to be honest, I don't like to play my games in Dutch. And I think that probably has something to do with ever since I played Black and White in Dutch, that version of that game was fucking horrible. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. Basically every Dutch person that I've talked to that played the Dutch version of Black and White really hated it, and it basically broke all the fun in the game. But you know, there's not going to be Dutch voiceovers for this, of course. There's only going to be probably like Dutch language or like written language, and that's going to be a little bit different, but even then I don't really like it all that much. I prefer English for most of my games, and movies as well actually. Anyway, let's get back to Squad. So next up we have the SPG-9 Kopje recoilless gun, which is the one that you can see on the back of the truck there, which is of course an anti-tank weapon that fires high explosive anti-tank rounds at velocities faster and ranges further than the RPG-7. Ah yeah, that's how that sentence works. However, the gunner and weapon are extremely exposed when engaging the enemy, making this kind of weapon unsuitable for head-on direct combat and more suited for hit-and-run tactics. Yeah, I can definitely see that being true. I think this is the kind of thing that you would park behind a hill somewhere, have a forward scout to see if you have any incoming enemy vehicles, and then drive this thing forward, take a shot, and then drive back out again. I think that would be the most effective use of this kind of a vehicle. But that's probably true for most of these vehicles anyway. Like you want to have some infantry forward or ahead of your vehicles to basically form a screen, and if they need backup, you can call it in and bring the vehicle forward. But I did also show a few videos of this stuff in action because they have a custom animation and it looks really cool. So I think the first one is a static emplacement that you can use. Yes. Let's put it full screen. Let's have a look. That looks pretty damn glorious, doesn't it? I mean, that's very well animated. And then of course then you have the technical version. Same as well, all the details are in, and that is really cool, because not a lot of games do that. They just go for like a generic kind of a reload animation like you would see in Arma, and that looks pretty bad if you look up close. Further down the list we have Veterans Day items. I'm not entirely sure what was going on. I think when they did a Kickstarter campaign they had some like special items as well in like that they could get a different weapon skin, and now for the Veterans Day special event that they held a little while ago, you could get these veteran items. But apparently they had some technical difficulties and the Veterans Day event items did not drop as intended during the November 11th event. As a compensation for that, we're running the drop event again, or they are running the drop event again for these items until the 2nd of January. So to get these, all you gotta do is jump into squad and play for an hour to get these special weapon skins. Note that these are non-transferable or tradable. Alright, that actually looks pretty cool. Of course we have the little Justice for Harambe thing there. That's the gorilla that got killed a while ago. Absolutely shameful if you ask me, but that's a whole different topic for a different day, basically. And I do like this one. I Fought the Law and the Law Won. That is of course a very famous song. I can't quite remember the name of the group that sang it, but I definitely remember the tune. And of course this is the law anti-tank weapon, so I Fought the Law and the Law Won. I think that's very appropriate and very very nice. Next up we have 80 player servers, and that's really cool as well, because previously it was down to 70, though the goal in the end is going to be at 100. So this is a new step in that direction. We now get 8 player servers. The hard-coded limit for maximum player count per game server has been lifted to 80 players. This is because there are many servers out there on powerful hardware that can very well handle 80 players. The minimum CPU clock speed for servers wanting to get licensed for 80 players is 4 GHz base clock. Servers not meeting this requirement will stay at 72 players or less depending on their hardware. Setting an inappropriately high player count on week-old hardware may result in that's the developers of Squad revoking that license. Alright. Changelog for assets. So they added the SPG9 for militia and insurgents as technicals and things that you can construct. They also had some gameplay changes. So for example, the S5 rocket fired from the improvised rocket artillery technical has had a minor buff to its explosion radius. So they are now a little bit more deadly. The ammo cost of reloading the improvised rocket artillery technical has been lowered from 300 to 250 ammo points at an FOB. Lowered the respawn timer of the I'm not going to say that again. The artillery technical from 18 to 15 minutes. Militia medics now have the AKS-74 as their main weapon rather than the AKS-74U. And to further emphasize the mobility playstyle of the unconventional factions, as well as their light vehicles being a constant annoyance for US and Russia, we have lowered the amount, or they have lowered the amount of tickets lost on a Dishka armed technical from 8 to 6, and lowered the respawn timer from 6 to 4 minutes. They also added more seats to various technical versions to further increase the mobility of the factions using them. For example, they added 2 seats in the back of the improvised rocket artillery technical. Damn it, they got me to say it again. Alright, optimal for bringing your spotters along for the ride, now holds a total of 4. Added 2 additional seats in the back of the Dishka technicals, which now hold a total of 5. Transport technical now holds a full 9-man squad. And the logistics technicals now hold a total of 5 people. Meanwhile, medics will be able to apply field dressings, aka the bandages, 25% faster, both to himself and to friendlies. Medical treatment is a specialty after all, and that makes sense. Unequipped animations for medic bag, field dressings and binocular are now 50% faster. Alright, that's interesting. I have yet to play this, so I'm curious to see how that will look. And then finally you have the Alpha V8.9 vehicles info sheet. For transport you have the M939 truck, the Ural for the Russians and the militia. They have a technical for the Taliban, I suppose. Same for basically the same for the logistics. Then you have some fire support, with the US having the Humvee, the BTR for the Russians, and an armed technical for the militia factions. And then let's see what else is there. You also have the Crow. So this is like a machine gun with a player being a little bit more exposed. The Crow is where the player sits inside and kind of manually controls it. And then finally, of course, you have the SPG9 recoilless gun technical, the rocket artillery technical, and the truck and this other thing, the other Humvee. That's not a Humvee, it's a Jeep, but you know what I mean. So vehicles in the squad are valued at a certain number of tickets, and if destroyed in the field will incur a ticket loss in the same way when an infantryman gets incapacitated and killed. We already knew this, but I guess I don't have to read that stuff out loud. There's been some map changes, so they added a logistics technical to militia on Yehorivka, AAS V2, to add extra flexibility to the way the militia team wants to play the map or the artillery. Also replaced the BTR-80 with a transport truck for Russia. That will be interesting. A lack of armored support for Russia. Operation First Light now has logistics vehicles for both factions as an experiment. The US has one logistics truck, but the militia has 2 logistics technicals. Added 1 or 2 SPG-9 technicals across most insurgent and militia map layers where applicable. In rare situations they are substituting a Dishka technical, but mostly they are an addition to the vehicle pool. That's pretty cool. Added Kokon AAS V2 with Russia versus insurgents. Added Kokon PAAS V1 with Russia versus the US. And they added a conquest layer for Operation First Light where the flags can be captured out of order. That is very interesting. Both sides begin with 400 tickets, and tickets are constantly draining at a rate of 4 tickets per minute per flag owned by the enemy team. Essentially, the more flags you own, the slower the ticket bleed will be for your side. That is pretty cool, because I kind of like the idea of having a more fluid gameplay or approach to gameplay on these maps, because most of the time these maps, they will be locked in a different, or in a certain progression, basically. So you can only go from A to B and from B to C and from C to D. But now in this setup, you can practically go wherever you want. So once you capture the first one, you can go, you have 2 options, and then you can pretty much go anywhere you want, basically. And that's pretty cool, because that makes it a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more unpredictable. And this is like the original setup of these missions. It's like you go here, then you go there, then you go there. And that's good for making sure that players are focused and meeting each other. Whereas this, people have a lot more chance to basically walk around the enemy and, you know, just not running into each other all that much. And then, oh, I guess this is the one that you can capture all the flags out of order. And I suppose then this one, yeah, I guess you cannot go between here or there. I don't know. It's pretty much the same thing by the looks of it to me, but it's pretty cool. You can go wherever you want. Ah, okay, so, you know what? My bad. In this, of course, you still have to capture this point first, and then you have to go to either one of these 2, and then you can do whatever you want over here. And it's still a little bit guided, but you have like options here. Whereas over here, you have all the possible options you could possibly want. You can just go wherever. You could go from the US base and go straight through this point without bothering with the other ones, for example. That's going to be pretty hectic, I think, if you have a squad over here, a squad over there, a squad over there. But that's going to be interesting as well. And then there's a long list of bug fixes, which I'm not going to go through. There's a small list of miscellaneous things as well, though. So they added impact effects and audio to glass surfaces, such as windows. Always cool to have little extra amounts of detail to the soundscape. So I approve of this. Added a unique map icon for both the improvised rocket artillery and SPG-9 technicals. Camera now shakes when you fire an explosive rocket projectile like the M72 Law, RPG-7 or SPG-9. That's pretty cool too. If it's done in a way that it doesn't disturb the view too much, I guess. Added new sounds for the M4 rifle. Oh, that's interesting, because I saw some people complaining about that, so I'm curious to know what that rifle sounds like now. And they added a new way of handling rearming of vehicle weapons at a repair station. Before, all magazines would instantly appear. Now only 1 magazine appears every 7 or 10 seconds, depending on the weapon. Ooh, interesting. So it takes a little bit of time to rearm, and that's pretty cool, actually. I like that a lot. The above change allows us to better handle the rocket technical and Humvee Crow's 50 cal weapon systems. These 2 now gradually fill up their magazine at the repair station. Rule of thumb is about 1 minute for a full rearm of an empty vehicle. That's cool, I like that a lot. So that means you cannot just drive in, get an instant resupply and just immediately drive out again. Now you just have to drive in, and then you have to stay passive for a moment and wait for this thing to get filled up. In which case, you know, you are a little bit vulnerable if the enemy is close by. That is definitely a good change. And then the Humvee Crow's 50 cal now has 1 big magazine of 500 rounds. Okay. Before they sign off, they just wanted to say that thanks to you, Squad is in the top 100 on IndieDB's Indie of the Year. You only have a few days left to vote, but please spread the word and get those votes in. So, yeah, I try to spread the word now. If you see this, go over there and help these guys out, because they deserve it. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys for whatever video I do next.